All right. I'm showing 5 minutes after the hour, so it's time to go ahead and get started. And if I could, I believe, Aaron, if you could go ahead and move to our agenda screen next, that would be great. And Patty, I guess I'll move this on over to you for a second. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, welcome, everybody. We're really excited to have so many people join us for this webinar on a terrific new product we have. My name is Patty Einstein. I'm the Director of Sales for the Public Safety Group, and we have many of the sales reps that cover the different states in the U.S. that are also online and listening to this program as well. So leading this discussion today is going to be Aaron Larkin from eValue. Larry is the functionality coordinator for the company and for this product, and also on board is Larry Newell, and Larry is our Executive Vice President. And also is Alicia Weissman, who is our Director of Marketing. So we have a full group on here, and with all of us, we feel we should be more than able to answer any question that comes up, and we suggest that you do ask questions as we go along, or you can wait and ask them at the end. Either way is fine with all of us. So with that, Larry, I'll hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Patty. I appreciate it, and welcome everyone to the call. You'll see an agenda screen that's up on your computer right now. Is there anyone who does not see the agenda screen? Okay, great. And with that said, we've just completed our introductions, and as you can see from the agenda, we're going to simply take you through our new program known as PreSEPT, and you'll go through this from a student perspective, the preceptor perspective, and the administrator perspective. We'll also discuss the product in terms of its pricing, and for those of you that are familiar with our Navigate program right now, how PreSEPT is integrated within Navigate or can be purchased as a separate item. And then we'll have closing comments and then exit the call. Call is set up for approximately 75 minutes from now to be completed. And again, folks, if you have any questions, please type them on into the chat window and click on Send to Everyone, and we'll all have the opportunity to see the question and respond. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and begin, and just to go ahead and explain to you that PreSEPT is simply an acronym, and what it stands for is the Preceptors Scheduler, Evaluator, and Procedure Tracker. This program is designed to go ahead and make life easier for program administrators, their faculty, preceptors, clinicians, and the students themselves as they are trying to go ahead and schedule their clinical and field rotations and go ahead and have a series of patient encounters, track those skills for the purpose of accreditation, and then allow the administrators to report on all the activities that went on in those externships, and that includes the evaluations that were completed on the student, the preceptor, and the facility itself. So with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and move to the program right now, and we will go ahead and look at this beginning with the student view. So Aaron, if you could please. Folks, on your screen right now, you should see the login page for this. Aaron has simply entered this right now as a student and entered the student's login. And when he did that, this opened up this particular student's page. I'm going to have a little delay on each of the screens just to go ahead and make sure that each of you have the opportunity to allow the screen to load on your computer. Aaron's maximizing the size of the screen now so that we can see it better. So we're looking right now at the student perspective. Okay? And yes, Patty, it was. I'm sorry. This is the student perspective. And here we're going to go ahead and see across the top, you see several tabs. To the right of this is a main screen here that we just call our home screen for the student. In this particular area, this is a customized home page where administrators are able to go ahead and enter information that they'd like the student to go ahead and see. For those of you that use our Navigate program now and our course manager, you know that this is the opening area that you can load in information on. If you are not familiar with that, but you've used things like Blackboard and you are making announcements to students in classes, then this is where this could be done. Oh, folks, I'm sorry. I've also been asked here, I saw a note here from Alicia, I should offer this on up. Please, if you can, mute your phones right now. It will save background noise. And clarify this for me, folks. Is it #6 or *6? Alicia or Patty?
I believe it's
*6. I got it. Thank you, Crystal. It is *6. Appreciate it. Okay, so thank you very much, folks. Okay. So again, this is just, as I said, this is the custom page here. So in this case here, you can see the profile information that has been entered already for this student, Betty, is down below. And this information is entered at the beginning when Betty begins the program. Over to the right, you can see activity items that Betty has completed some evaluations. She has not rejected or pulled back any evaluations, and she has 4 pending evaluations that have to be completed. She also has 69 logged care procedures. So this is just a little overview here of everything that we have here on the home page for the student. So if we could now, let's just simply go ahead and move on up and to the right side there, I believe. And if we could go ahead then and click on the profile up there for 1 second. Aaron, thanks. And there are a couple pop-ups that should pop on up just above Betty. There we are. May have to change the page. Okay, great. We can see these here. These pop-ups simply allow her to go ahead and alter the password. She can go ahead and pull up program information, such as documents that have been stored in here that the administrators have placed in here for the curriculum. So right here, come in and click on Curriculum Documents. It'll pull up a PDF file here, which is just a sample. And if that were then opened up, you'd see a PDF. And it doesn't really have anything in it. It's just our placeholder to show that this document exists. Okay? All right. The other item then that is in here is an item here for the calendar. If you click on the calendar then, it goes ahead and it brings on up the student calendar here. Now, Aaron is clicking us back here to August, and as an example here on August, you can see on the right-hand side, in green, red, purple, and blue-black here, you can see different items that have been placed on in here, and this includes personal events, such as attending a preparation class for EMT, which was done on the 29th of August. It also includes the clinical rotations that were placed in here that the individual went ahead and attended. You can click on one of these. If you could go down and click on the ALS internship, please. When you click on that, it will go ahead and open on up information here, showing the various locations, the information about where this was, and what date it occurred. Okay? Aaron, if you go back to the calendar here then, maybe we want to, right. Good. All right, and click on My Calendar here. Good. And if you wanted to go ahead and enter any information then on in here, we can do that. We can do that in an area here like Add an Event. So you can make a name of an event here. You can then set on up a particular location for it. And then you can set the date in which it would start and end and the time for this. And then just simply go ahead and come down and click on it as an add event. And when you do it, we'll go ahead and populate the calendar here. Okay. All right, you can click on list events. And bring it back up under My Calendar then. Okay, good. All right, so this is just basically a simple overview here of the calendar and the way in which the individual, the student, can go ahead and enter on in items under this, for the for their calendar. We're going to go ahead and cover this in more detail in a moment because Aaron is going to go ahead and discuss how the administrators are able to go ahead and populate the calendar here as well. So let's go ahead and move from the profile item and just move on over under time tracking, if you could. Now, time tracking is a simple way to track for the student, to track where the student has been and the hours the student has spent on something. So as you can see, they are able to go ahead and pull from up above and identify what they want to go ahead and look at. In this case, all clinical activities, their internships, where this particular item occurred. And then if you look down below, then it will go ahead and show who the preceptor was, and it'll go ahead and simply show the event here for time tracking purposes. He's entered a new activity right here for the 8th, okay, and you can just see right now how it's populated that. You can also see over in the right-hand side how the total number of hours are tracked for the week and then as a cumulative, and adding that on up so that basically they're able to go ahead and look at and view their hours and track hours at any time. Now, I also want to make note that these items here that we have are all smartphone and touchscreen compatible as well. So you don't have to be just in front of a computer to go ahead and do any of the items that are here. Okay. All right. I think are there any questions on that item? We've covered so far we've covered the page, which was just the student's home page, and then the simple My Profile, and now the time tracking element for the student. In that case, let's go ahead and move on over here to the PXDX tab, Aaron. Now, PXDX is simply the clinical and field tracking component. Okay. We have we have a question that's come on up on the screen. They are asking if we have a sample of the mobile screen. Aaron, would you like to comment on that by any chance?
Really, it varies enough between devices that there is no standard. It's basically a web-optimized version. There's no app to download, so every phone is going to be a little bit unique. So it would just be like as you log any type of or access any type of internet site on your phone.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron.
Yep.
Folks, this is the care tracking area. As all of you are aware, students have to go ahead and track their patient encounters. This information is then provided for accreditation visits. The administrators have to go ahead and have access to this information, and the preceptors have to go ahead and know as well what's going on and how things are being completed. We took the position here to track the items that are mandatory to go ahead and be tracked and reported, and we also have some other items that you can go ahead and select here. In this case, Aaron has gone ahead and clicked that this is an ALS field internship. It's then provided a pull-down menu of all the sites that we had in there. He went ahead and gave it a patient ID number. Didn't have to, but he did on this one, and that's fine. And now in this case here, we're going to go to an adult. He's going to enter that. We're going to go with a female. Let's go ahead and click on erase. Thank you. And I have here, this is going to be a medical call that we've just run. This particular medical call, when you arrived on the scene for this patient was, hold on one second here, Aaron. This patient was experiencing a seizure. So as your initial impression, you check seizure. You also found out, however, from bystanders around that this individual was also diabetic and that he was having some problems before. So we're going to click on diabetic. We also know that the individual suffered a fall down a couple steps when he, in fact, collapsed and had the seizure. So if you come on down to the bottom there, Aaron, you can click on trauma as well under head and neck and back. Okay? So you can click on these items and put those all in. Now we can come under mechanism of injury. You can scroll down here and find fall alphabetically. Fill that out. Now come into level of consciousness, and this patient is unresponsive right now. Now, the next items here are asking about the vital signs patient interview and the exam that was done. These are elements that have to be reported back for accreditation purposes, and you have to go ahead and determine whether or not this individual is, in fact, performing the skills an observer or team leader. So in this case here on the first one, let's just go ahead and say that he performed the vital signs skills. He performed the patient interview, but he observed the patient physical exam being done here. Okay? Yeah, I'm sorry, you did NA, that's right, because we didn't do a patient interview. We talked to others about the patient. So here you can go ahead and type in a narrative if you would like. You have 550 words, free text here. And so if you were interested in knowing what the individual's vital signs were initially or upon completion of call, that information could go in here. If you wanted to add anything else, that could go ahead and be placed as well and tracked. Under the disposition, next, this is an emergency transport.
Ambulance transports.
Okay. And we also will go ahead and say that we then scroll down and see the supervisor. And the supervisor here, these again would have been preloaded already by the administrator who knows who the supervisors are in these various externships. Under the groups now, here's where you can go ahead and just let this sit as all groups, or you are able to go ahead and pull that open as a pop-up menu. There we go. And you can go ahead and select, as an example, if you were a paramedic student right now and you're only concerned with tracking your ALS activities, you can click on that. In which case, it will then go ahead and just filter on out and leave the items that were there that were all ALS skills. Let's assume now here you can see that they're all in here, but they're in alphabetical order. So there's just a lot of things in here. And this would include the medications that you gave, activities such as starting IVs. It will also include all the different ECGs and such. So everything is in here in an alphabetical order. So if you would find it easier to go ahead and click on other activities and filter things out, well, we could come on up here and open up the group. And let's just say that we did an ECG on this patient. Now it will go ahead and just open this on up under all the ECGs. And if we scrolled all the way down to sinus tachycardia, keep going down, Aaron, there you go, and click on that. Now you can go ahead and say, what role did I have in this? Well, I performed this. And add that as a patient care procedure, and now it stores it down below. If you had other activities that you did for this patient, such as starting an IV, you could go back on up, open that up. Under ALS care, scroll on down to an IV or an IO, and it will go ahead and, there we go, IV access, and it will allow you to perform that and add that as well. Similarly, you can do this with medications. If you are quickly looking for medications, you can come down under emergency medications. It will then go ahead and load these on up. Whoop, there we go here. And if you happen to give anything like a glucagon or dextrose or such, you can just there you go. It would even be, you could put it in like that and it would find it. You can add it as an item and then move right on. Okay, scroll on down then, Aaron, here toward the end. Once you have this completed, you're able to save your record. And when you do that, we'll go ahead and load this on up. So that's how quick and easy it is for an individual to go ahead and store a patient encounter. Any questions on that? Okay, let's just see here. We're asking, I have a question up, is the screen printable for students to take to clinical sites? Or are they expected to have computer access at clinical sites? No, they could have a handheld available at any clinical site that they would like. They could go ahead and enter all of that on a mobile device, and they'd be able to go ahead and have their preceptors go ahead and sign off electronically as well. Okay. Can the page be printed? Aaron, can the page be printed out at this point, or does it have to be printed out at a different time?
Under the review edit, we could have an access to it.
Well, let's go ahead then. Okay,
Yep.
great. So with that said here, folks, that's our little item here on PXDX. All right. And we are going to go ahead and talk about supervisor sign-off options here in a moment. But, Aaron, just go to the review and edit here quickly. Thank you. So that we can go ahead and just kind of scroll on down beneath. There you can go ahead and see a variety of different records that you've already entered here. Okay, and as an example, this is the one that we just entered on the top here, showing that. And as you can see over on the right-hand side, you have the ability to go ahead and look at this, edit this, or delete this particular activity. Okay, so right now it's in here, but it gives you one last chance to go ahead and view it. Okay. Aaron, if you could please then go ahead and click on Reports for me. In terms of the various reports that we can generate under the Care Procedures reports, I think you'll like this very much. Click on Count as an example here. If you click on Count for this is going to go ahead and open on up. Just leave it right where it's at here and just scroll it on down, Aaron. Don't change anything. Just go to the bottom and click on Next. Right now, this will open up everything that was in there. This is going to go ahead and give a total count of all ALS procedures that are being done here, or actually all the procedures that the student has done that falls within their realm. So it's just a quick count of just those activities that they've done within this given date period that appears above. And again, you can filter out the dates, times, and such. If you could, Aaron, go back to Reports for one more second, please, for another view. If you wanted to come down, don't worry about crosstab is just a way to view it in a horizontal mode, the same things. But come to Log for a second, Aaron. If we click on Log here, leaving everything just the way it is again, and come down to Next, when you open this, it's going to go ahead and log in all the interactions, interventions you've had, plus all the other information. In this case, you're able to go ahead and see that this fell under a particular clinical internship, who the supervisor was, the date, all your ID numbers, and all the other information on the patient here in terms of their age and everything else that was completed on the patient. So it just gives you another view here as well. And if we can go back to Reports one more time, Aaron, please. We'll wrap this up. Go to Summary, please, for me. And go on down to the bottom, please, and click on Next. Under the Summary area here, this is an important item because you as the administrators are able to set the requirements for your own program for how many different things like 12-lead ECGs, administration of different medications and the like that you want to go ahead and do for your patient. So it would appear there here under the required number. Then the actual number that a student has done is being tracked here, and then it will tell you how many are remaining and whether the requirement has been met or, in this case, exceeded, all in one quick report. So it's a great way for a student to go ahead and be able to know where they stand on all the different skills. Okay. I believe that wraps up what I wanted to go ahead and talk about under the PXDX. And, Aaron, I'm going to save the item here for supervisor sign-off options for when you go ahead and discuss that section in a moment. Okay?
Good.
All right. And let's go ahead then and look under, how about for us, evaluations, please? Many of you are probably aware that among the things right now that COAMPS is finding very important and putting greater emphasis on in terms of their accreditation visits are to see that adequate evaluations, detailed evaluations, are done on the student over time so that you can actually see how this student is performing as they move through the program. Likewise, they would like to go ahead and know that the student has adequate opportunity to evaluate the preceptors and the actual clinical rotations. So in this case here, this is a student evaluation of a preceptor. If you go ahead and just click on Edit the Evaluation here, Aaron. Here you can see that in this case, we're able to open up, you're able to see the date and time that you did and the location of the externship that you did. And you're also able to go ahead and see the picture of the preceptor. So if there are any questions, you're able to be sure you were at the right place, the right time. Down below here are a group of questions that this is all set up on on a Likert scale, and you can go ahead and click on these and evaluate your preceptor's performance here. And then you're able to go ahead and comment on this and write in detailed comments as well, and then you can go ahead and submit this.
And of course, I'd open the books.
Now, this is going to be submitted, and then it's going to be able to be viewed by the course administrator to know that, this evaluation has been completed here. Okay. It also lets you go ahead and look at items here where you can print these, view it, and print it on out. It also allows you to go ahead and suspend an activity here if that's active.
Book, though. He's had a whole different book.
Folks, if you're on the call right now, if you could please hit *6 to mute your phone, please. We'd all appreciate it. Thank you very much. We have a question that's just come on in here. It says, can you customize the preceptor questions that are being evaluated by the students? Well, right now, these are the questions that we've gone ahead and placed on in here that populate the actual screens. Customization of different items within the program is an item that can be done through through eValue, and Aaron's going to talk a little bit about the customization capability here later on. But right now, this is what we've pulled to go ahead and put in here. We also have the ability to evaluate the actual, not just the preceptor, but the actual whole activity as a whole. Was the facility something that was adequate? Did the staff treat us appropriately? So there are other evaluations in here then that can also be viewed and commented on here. So we've opened that one on up right now. Thank you, Aaron. And this one here, as you can see some of these, it says, is the patient volume adequate? The variety of patients with sufficiency for my needs. So this one goes ahead and covers a large scale of questions regarding the actual externship itself. I see here a question. There are a couple questions coming in here. Thank you, Alicia. I saw that you responded here relative to the evaluations. Okay. So those of you that are tracking on the chat feature, you can also see that we're answering these as we move on through. And Aaron's
I have to give credit to Aaron for that, Larry.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, and saving this one then as well here for later. Okay, great. Okay, how about trainee reports? Aaron, if we could go ahead and click on that, please. Under trainee reports, let's look at the aggregate performance. Now, this is going to go ahead. You can just scroll to the bottom and just click on next. This one here is going to go ahead and populate and show how the student, hold right there please, how the student was evaluated on all the different items that we have placed in here. This is a very detailed evaluation scale. This has been pulled from the national standards previously. This was a public domain document that we then modified, set on up here in this format, and had reviewed extensively. You can see the types of questions we're asking from integrity and self-motivation, and these continue all the way on down to questions about whether or not the individual actually performed the skills. Are they competent in patient care? So we have also self-confidence and hygiene, communication, time management, teamwork, and patient professionalism and patient abilities here. So there we go. Okay. What I'd like to go ahead and show here is if you look here on the side, you can see that right now they've had 11 evaluations that have been done on this person. Their average score is a 3.73 on their scale. You can see that they fell most in the area of 4, more than anything else. And if we'd like to go ahead and view them over time to see how this individual has been developing, we can go ahead and click on that, and it will go ahead and bring it up. We have a variety of different ways to view it, from frequencies and such, but this is a simple item here that lets you see how this individual student was able to go ahead and perform relative to just this one element of patient care over time. Okay. Thank you, Aaron. We go ahead and go back to the main screen here on evaluations. The only other thing I could just comment on here is, there are different ways to view this, folks. If you wanted to see a pie chart or something else on here, there you go. Aaron just clicked on all, bring it on up here down below, and it will reveal for you a whole group of histograms, from bar charts to piegrams, horizontal bars, and the like. So we have a variety of different ways to present this. So if you were trying to present this to administrators or to others who are coming on in and looking at your program and evaluating your program, you're able to go ahead and show them at any point in time how a particular student has done, but also later on, Aaron will tell you that you're able to do this as an aggregate and view, for lots of people here and see how everything is done as well for them. Okay? Aaron, I'm going to go ahead and move into the last section here then is just a brief item on the schedule. And then I'd like to go ahead and see if there are any other questions regarding the student view and turn this right on over then to you. So right here, folks, we've clicked on the schedule. You can see that this is preloaded for, go ahead, Aaron, yeah, for requests here. And you can go ahead and click on an activity and go ahead and put in something, like if this were your field internship, you can come on in and set a particular time frame. It will give you a date element here, and you see a site. So maybe you've clicked on that. You can even write comments then in here, such as, hey, this is closest to my home, or this will be my last opportunity to go ahead and go to the medical examiner's office. I need to make this one work. And then you're able to go ahead and submit this. And when you submit it, it'll go ahead and move on through to the administrator. And at the same time, then it goes ahead and populates everything down below so that you can go ahead and see all the various activities that you've requested, your start and end dates, the site, the status of whether these have actually been accepted, rejected, in progress, pending an approval. So it allows you to go ahead and view everything in this one area here for yourself. The different dates and such for clinical rotations would have been loaded on up by the administrator so that you'd be able to go ahead and see the kinds of things that are available for you, and then you'd be able to go ahead and select off of that. Okay. All right. Any other questions that we have here? Here we go. We've got a couple others here. Review in just a moment. Great. Okay. Well, folks, I've covered the student view of this program right now, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this on over to my colleague, Aaron, and Aaron is going to go ahead and take you on through the preceptor view here, the educator and administrator view. Okay, so at this time, he's gone back on out here, and he's logging back in now as preceptor with the password. And Aaron, I'm just going to go ahead and turn this on over to you.
Great. Thank you, Larry. Yeah, I'm going to log in through, and we just had a question about accessing via the preceptor account, so that's the tool will become right now. So we're logged in now as Hank Preceptor. He is basically a clinician of sorts, an off-site preceptor in terms of what we're going to view. And his access, it is going to be a little bit different, but obviously somewhat similar to what we saw for the student. First and foremost, when a preceptor type does log in, you'll note one difference right off the bat is the home page is a little bit different. So that does allow you to publish only the items that are appropriate or applicable to the different, basically more or less an audience type. So if you want to have preceptor-specific posts on your homepage, you can certainly do that, and then it's just published out to those folks. Some of the similarities, though, we do have that background information as well as a direct link to their pending items and things that they need to concern themselves with, notably the evaluations and then some of the PXDX or the clinical tracking sign-off. We'll go through some of the menu items pretty much similar to the pathway that we went through for the student. So my profile would be identical. We're going to go ahead and skip with that one. But we do want to look at that time tracking piece. And for our preceptor folks or our faculty folks, anybody who is assigned the tasks or asked to be responsible for verifying time entries, they do have this menu item. And they'll just see whatever is applicable or has been designated for them to sign off on. So as Larry made his entry for Betty Student on the 22nd of August, it flows through to my screen here because I was marked as the designated supervisor at that site at this time, and then I get to go in here and sign off. There are a few different options for sign-off, ranging basically from a very active, you need to come in here and click once a week, once a month, whatever is most appropriate, down to we take them on good faith, and then if you do have a concern, then you can go back and edit over the top or remove supervision. So that's just a little bit a way for us to customize it according to the culture in your program. We don't want to burden preceptor folks with a lot of sign-off and radio button clicking and so on and so forth. So their view of this item is pretty straightforward. They just see what's assigned to them. Likewise now for the clinical tracking or the PXDX case logger, the sign-off options exist. And it's going to be definitely an area where they're allowed a little bit more input than we do for the time tracking, where it's simple sign-off. In this particular case, they have the ability to do some filtering in terms of what they want to see for background information on the clinical entry. So I'm going to select a handful of fields that I think are appropriate to review when I'm going to go do my sign-off. And then I'll just go ahead and hit next here. And then we see some of the items that have been designated for this preceptor. I'm going to move him over just a bit so we can see more of that screen. We have the various items that were documented for us. In this case, it was that Betty student entry, and we have the information here. If I scroll down to the bottom, this is the entry that Larry just made for the unconscious patient that had a seizure and a fall. We have that information, the background info. And again, this is right now set up for what I described as more or less auto-confirm. So we take the entry on good faith, and then unless the supervisor has a particular issue with the entry, they can go back and mark it as rejected and so on and so forth. They can also just accept or reject components of it. So if the IV access was performed poorly, they missed the track or what have you, that can be rejected. However, the overall or the other two items that they were performed appropriately or competently can be confirmed, or they can quote-unquote get credit for that. If you do need more information than the fields that you chose, you're always able to drill down a little bit further and then look at all background information, basically just by clicking the procedure link. So it has the full information, it has the text, it has the level of consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. Should you find yourself deficient of any type of info. There's also a quick way to, if you're only going to do this as a preceptor once a week or once a month, you can also come in here and confirm all, and it'll modify all records, reject all, etc., and it'll do the radio button click work for you, and then you're able to just go back in here and make the minor tweaks that you need to, and it's just in place to basically streamline that sign-off opportunity for our preceptors. We know we have limited time with those folks, so we want them to be, or their system experience to be very efficient if we can make it that way. And just so everyone does see this, there were some questions going back and forth I want to make a quick note of. Number one, do we get a notification of when a student enters a report? Also, will we receive a notification if a student augments a report? Both perfect questions. Yep, absolutely. As a supervisor, as a student goes in and makes an entry, we have the ability to send off an automatic email that says, so-and-so student has entered this procedure at this date, at this site. It has a little bit of that background information. And then according to whatever we have for sign-off options or supervision options, you'll be asked to either log in and do this radio button work, or it'll have the prompt where it's basically, unless you agree or disagree with the entry, no further action is required of you. So yes, there are automatic alerts. We also don't want to inundate folks with email. So if you do have folks that, or students that make a high volume of entries, we don't want to send them 30 emails in a day. So we can also set it up to batch emails. So they only get one large email once a week or every other day, something like that, just to bottleneck some of those emails so we don't, again, flood anybody's inbox with sign-off requests. Any other questions on the supervision aspect of things, or just kind of clinical tracking in general? I'll kind of keep my eye on the chat box here. For now, I'll move on. If there is something that comes up, go ahead and type it out, and I'll jump back to it. That's not a problem. Next item I do want to look at is the evaluation piece. I'm going to go to my completed or to be completed items. Now, for the student view, the student was being asked to evaluate the preceptor and the rotation. For our preceptor folks, they will only be asked to evaluate the students that they interact with. So in this case, we have our list of folks to evaluate. I'm going to click on Edit Evaluation. And again, we display the picture and so on. The questions that we're going to look at down here, we actually looked at the report, or the output, or basically the end result of the form that we're looking at now. So under that student account, we looked at the reports for ourselves, more or less. So Betty's student wanted to review her performance. These are the questions that are asked to reflect that. So we had the affective domains, all 11 of them, as well as the joining comment entry right along with it. So we looked at the end result. This is basically the input side of things for the preceptor to complete. The functionality, or the way that the form is accessed, is identical to how the student side works. So they access the form. One thing I do want to mention, both for students and preceptors, is that similar to the clinical tracking notifications, we can also send out email notifications as a form is assigned to them to complete. So as it hits their to be completed or their pending box, an email will go out notifying them of a pending evaluation. It'll have some of the details surrounding who they're about to evaluate and that type of info. But what we'll also include is an auto login URL link. And more or less how that operates is they click that link in their email, and they're actually routed right back to the pending screen. So their login is authenticated via their email, and the link is a secured and encrypted link, so they're able to access the system without actually having to enter their login and password information. And this would be the screen that they get routed to. So it's a huge time saver for folks that are preceptors who are basically low-stakes users of eValue or Precept. They get to maybe not even remember their username and password or even the website. So provided that they're checking an email on a regular basis, they'll have everything they need to access the system in a timely manner. Again, just another streamlining opportunity. We want to make it easy for those folks who are not on the payroll. So I want to make it as easy as we can. And last item I do want to mention is that the evaluation piece, along with the clinical tracking, as well as the time tracking piece, the evaluations are available via a smartphone handheld device too, iPad, any of those types of devices you can get on here. Again, it's a web or a smartphone optimized version of our website, so there's not a lot of pinching and pulling and moving around. It basically makes a more abbreviated view, so it's easy to complete stuff. I'm going to jump into a couple of questions that came up here.
Yeah, Aaron, we have a couple questions here that were involving the shifts on the calendar.
Sure.
Okay, and here you can see the students, they're asking about how when a student goes ahead and selects, one of their shifts, so they see something populated on their calendar, they want to go ahead and click on it. They want to know whether or not this has to go ahead and be, the request has to be approved to put them in, or is it automatically fulfilling a slot with them there?
It's either or, so it's whatever is most appropriate for your program. So we'll have options for either. So it's either first come, first serve as they enter it, and it basically hard copies into the schedule, or if you want to have an administrative coordinator take a peek at the schedule requests, and approve or reject, it can be done in that way too. So it's whatever is most appropriate.
So one more question that's here, but this actually, I think, pertains to the student view. The question is wanting to know if there's a hard copy of our blank form so that so preceptors can jot down their notes immediately after the hard copy of the evaluation form, so
sure.
the preceptors can jot down notes. Is that correct, Ralph? It looks like your question here is asking about a hard copy of a form. Yes, okay. So this is the evaluation form. Could that be printed on out here so that so that they could basically go ahead and just kind of have one of these handy for any of these preceptors or for any of the students available, and then just go ahead and jot it down and then bring it back and fill it in later? Yeah,
absolutely, and that's a pretty common practice for folks that are working in the field sites. They'll print a copy. They'll have the information and they'll be able to keep that hard copy with them, go back and enter it into the system if that's appropriate for them. Yeah, so yep, common practice, and we try and make that fairly easy to do for the hard copy stuff. And actually, this is a little bit, this actually pre-populates because I had gone in and accessed that form and made some entries. If I had just clicked print this form, I would get the surrounding information. I'd have the student, I'd have his picture on there if I had it associated, and I could just make my entries here as a blank view. But because I've gone in and made some selections, that's why they populate here. But yeah, absolutely, that's pretty common.
Thanks, Aaron. Any other questions on this, folks? Okay, Aaron, move on.
Sounds good. I will just make mention of some surrounding type features that we didn't quite get established on the student side of things. We do have, similar to how we want to streamline their access into evaluation forms, once they get in the form, I want to have the information or the features available for them under the My eValue, which is more or less just a favorites link. So if I'm always going to come in here and do sign off, I want to be able to click that information. It brings me right to the appropriate page. It is just like you operate, internet favorites or whatever, as it's appropriate for you. So folks can make that under their account. This information that we have on file for Hank Preceptor is a little bit different in that we've also granted him some site privileges, or he is a site director. So he has the ability to access some site information. I think for the most part what I want to do is save that for the admin view, but that is why you're seeing that additional tile. So without further ado, I think let's go ahead and switch gears here and log in as an admin view. I'm going to log out right now.
Great.
And that's going to route me into the eValue page. So I'm going to go in as our admin.
Folks, please go ahead and just keep your comments coming on anything, your questions, and then we'll continue to go ahead and get to them. Even though we may have left one particular section, if something comes on up, we'll get back to it here for you. So this is the admin. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, and I do see a question that came in. Is there an email notice that goes out to students if they have a clinical or a cancellation? Yes. So if they make a schedule entry and either I approve or reject it, they'll be notified via email. So as an admin goes in here and makes that entry, we do want to notify folks right off the bat that it's been approved or rejected. And then likewise, just like the email notices and so on. Yep. And really, kind of on that note as an aside, because folks have probably a Gmail account, an institutional or a community college email address, et cetera, you do have the ability to append several email addresses to their account, and it will send duplicate notices. So whatever they're checking the most frequently, they can access, but it more or less will get that 360 email account, so to speak, and hit them all so that they have no excuse, more or less, to see the information. So we're now logged in as our admin view, John. John has, as you can see right off the bat, the most full or complete set of menu item tiles. He has full system access. More or less, you can consider John a super user in the program. So he has all administrative rights. We can look at a number of different things. In fact, why don't we go right to that schedule entry page since we're having some questions about it, and then we'll look at how to manage some of those student requests. I'm going to go in the Manage screen. And the question from Ray, yes, absolutely, you can have multiple super users. You can also have different types of super users. So if you have a person in the program who has a clinical focus or another that has a didactic focus, we can partition menu item access and report access accordingly. Yep. So let's look at some of the scheduling administration features that we have here. The schedule administration screen is pretty similar to what we saw for the clinical sign-off piece. We have our radio button approvals over here on the left and right, so we just go through and make a quick, accept, reject, and I'll go ahead and accept that upcoming entry. This is actually going to go along with the email. So the question came up, are they notified of the clinical assignments and so on and so forth? Yes, and then this text goes into the email. And I'll just hit submit. That information will be sent to Betty's student, notifying her of the approved item and so on. So this screen is pretty straightforward. I think it gives you the background information, the date, and so on, and then it goes through and actually sets that information up. There is an audit button here, and the reason that is, or why that is important, is based on our basically what we assign for slots. So at AI Ambulance Service, the Clinical Field Internship 2 activity, we want to say, there are 3 open slots for students to take, or 4 open slots, and so on and so forth. So we want to make that stuff readily available to them. So that's basically schedule management. In fact, why don't we take a quick peek at that availability management right now. So let's go to the schedule, the availability, and then we'll go to schedule availability. And this will give us kind of a 30,000-foot overview of everything that's available. So let's just keep everything open as all, and we'll look at it in a couple of different ways here. And I'm going to zoom out a bit so we can see that. But again, this is all the slot-based availability. And maybe it makes more sense to actually flip this and look at it by site. So let's look at all of our available clinical sites. We have AI Ambulance Service, the Medical Examiner's Office, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have the available slots for each. I'm going to click into one. It'll give you some information here. So in the case where we have different levels of field work or different things that happen at a given site, we're able to even partition that down even further and say, for folks that are at a level 1 field internship or what have you, we can take 4 of those, we can take 4 of the 2, 3, and this stuff can change and so on. This is a huge aspect of the schedule management and how we set up the rotation or the shift schedule for folks to be able to sign up for their clinicals. And the intention is to, again, mirror it to your program. We want to have all of your information in here, the appropriate activities and sites and so on and so forth, and then more or less have it run like clockwork. The students make the requests. You can either approve the requests, or we can just, like I said, take them and make them viable schedule entries as they come in, and then it basically can be in a pretty hands-off way to do the scheduling piece. Any other questions on the scheduling aspect or some of the setup steps involved with that? All right. And again, I'll keep my eye on that chat box, so go ahead and enter them as they come in. Some of that setup, now that I'm kind of on that topic, is tied directly to the sites. So I'm going to go into our site management tool. Let's look at our list of available sites. And we'll look at our sample sites that I have built in here. So here are 5 or 6 different clinical sites and fieldwork sites that we have. So this is obviously a big aspect of the schedule management. We want to build everything in here. But we also want you to be able to go in, manage, and keep track of the information that's required by the COAMS folks for the clinical affiliate matrix and some of the information involved in that. So as I click into the AI Ambulance Service, I'll be able to keep track of primary and secondary contact information, who are the educators or preceptors that are available to teach at that site, what are the activities that I send off, and then we also have the background information. So this is a field internship site. We want to make sure we have their affiliate number, the distance from the campus or the program, and so on and so forth. Again, this is a mirrored reflection of the clinical affiliate matrix. We have some of the field site data and so on. This is all information that can be updated. You can keep historical records. So in 2010, we had this number of field runs per year. In 2011, 2012, et cetera. And you can basically keep a rolling record. There's a lot of different ways to manage that site information according to what's most appropriate. I'm going to take a quick pause here. We're going to field a couple of the questions that came in. Is there a calendar format that shows an overview of the units in a specific hospital and the students in each site on a specific day? Yeah, absolutely. We call that the roster report, or the user site schedule, and we can definitely make sure we take a peek at that. I'll make a quick note to look at the site reports. The schedule manager is it easy to toggle between the approval decline page and the schedule that shows how many spots are available for that requested day. Well, we can set it up actually to not allow you to request or approve above and beyond your limits. So there is a throttle, so to speak, or a governor on that if you want it. Otherwise, yeah, that audit screen will actually, or that audit button that was right next to the approval, will make sure, you know, are we meeting our appropriate thresholds for slot-based scheduling? Did we go over or behind? But yeah, that is exactly what the audit button is for. So I'm going to get out of this site management. One component or satellite component of the site management is the management of affiliation agreements. And it actually looks in a pretty similar. So we link the document itself to the site. So we have our AI ambulance service, kind of my go-to sample. We have the document on file for each. We have the contact information for the person in charge of managing that agreement on their side. If I click into it, oops, it goes back to that site information. Get that pop up. But if I want to make any changes to it, I'll show you some of the other available fields here. There are ways to manage, make any type of notes, add contact information, and so on and so forth. There's also an opportunity to manage the renewal type. So if this is an automatic or a manual renewal, we can mark it as such. And there are also ways or tools behind the scenes to generate automated reminders that say, hey, you have a site affiliation agreement that expires in 2 months. Here's the contact information for the site, et cetera, et cetera. So there are satellite tools that even surround the affiliation management and that aspect of clinical site management. So really a neat tool. Hopefully the intention is to replace a lot of what's used now in Excel spreadsheets or a big stack of folders, whatever. If there are any questions about the site management stuff, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I'll keep an eye on it. While we're kind of on the same topic, let's go look at that schedule report section, and I'll just give you a quick overview of what that looks like. I'm going to run my dates back just a bit. We'll look at basically over the summer what was the schedule. I have the opportunity to flip some views, so I can do whatever is most appropriate for me. So I want to do user by site or user by activity. Let's actually just take a peek, and we'll kind of go from there. So we have our students and our preceptors listed at a given site, and then on each day it has their information. Where are they at that day, at what time, and so on. I can drill down into the site. I can look at site-based information again. It's kind of that similar pop-up. And this pivot icon allows me to basically flip the view. So if it was better for me to see it by site, and I want to see for each site who basically shows up, we can do it that way. It's kind of leaves it a little bit open to interpretation in terms of how you want to see it. In fact, let's look at a by-site report now. And this is just an abbreviated view. So for the last, basically just today, who's where today. So Julie and Betty are at County Medical Examiner's office, and we have that information right on file. So a lot of different ways to view that scheduled data, and some of it is just, what's the most appropriate view for you? How do you like to see these types of things? And then you can basically toggle your views accordingly. Not seeing any questions on the site management stuff or the schedule management, so what I do want to jump over to are some of the reports. And I think Larry kind of hit the highlights on the evaluation reports. One thing I do want to mention, which has been somewhat popular for the clinical tracking piece, is the mix report. And this is kind of where I'll leave the presentation, and we can talk about some of the pricing and some of the information through the Navigate courses and so on. But I do want to show you this just real quickly. This is an opportunity for you to do some very quick data processing on the clinical experiences of your students. And we have a large number of clients, and EMS included, but even as much as some of the other folks that we work with who absolutely love this report, and it saves them a ton of time in terms of, again, quick overviews of what the clinical experience is for a student in their program. So as we send folks out to AI ambulance service, what are the types of patient interactions that they're having? At this point, they're predominantly male, adults, they're unresponsive, and so on and so forth. And these are just a reflection of whatever options I chose on that side, what's the level of consciousness and so on. So this is a great way to do some data mining very quickly. If you've ever combed through Excel spreadsheets, you can just about imagine how much time that probably could spend you, going through that information to see this. And with PreSEPT product, it's right at your fingertips. Larry, are there any areas that you wanted me to cover? Did I jump through anything too quickly, or anything that stands out that you wanted me to take a quick look at?
Actually, Aaron, I was pleased because I knew I had failed to go ahead and cover the mixed report. And this is
great.
Is really big, an incredibly important item because, as you said, they can actually select the fields that they want to go ahead and check on and get this type of data. So it's mining data that you would otherwise really have to go ahead and pull on up from either paper reports or find it through your various Excel spreadsheets that you put together. But I'm happy with where we are right now. I don't see any other questions from folks coming on up, but here comes something right now. Crystal's got one here for us. How do you communicate student schedules to the clinical sites? Do you need to make someone at each site an administrator? Aaron, you want to speak to that?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, yes, we can have what's called a site director type, and we can schedule reports to be delivered to those folks. So they'll say, in the next month, here are the list of students where and when that are going to attend. So in that way, they can be marked as an administrator. Otherwise, we can feed information in different ways, typically using the reports. Otherwise, they can have some type of abbreviated access if they prefer to just look at it in the system too. So, yeah, we don't want to leave the site or the preceptor folks in the dark in terms of who's showing up on site. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Well, folks, with that said, and for us to go ahead and try to stay right on time here, we have two last items to go ahead and address. I believe, Patty, you're going to go ahead and address the issue here currently of the pricing structure of the program, and talk about. Then we're going to go ahead and discuss how it can be launched as well from Navigate.
Okay. So actually, I know that both Bill Kimball and Courtney, who are our IT sales gurus, are on the phone with us. So if anyone has any particular questions about how this will operate in our learning management system that we call Navigate, they are available on the phone to answer those questions. What I wanted to let everybody know is that this product, PreSEPT, can be purchased as a standalone product. It also can be purchased as part of any of our digital or print bundles. So for every core book, we have an Advantage, a Premium, and a Preferred package, actually Advantage, Preferred, Premium package. And within each bundle, there are different elements, things from an e-book, e-workbook, to an interactive, to our student review program called JV Test Prep. And now we will also be offering the PreSEPT product to be bundled within those packages. Some of the benefits of doing that is that your students, especially those students that are on financial aid, will be able to go to the bookstore and purchase their packages, with the PreSEPT as part of the bundle and utilize their financial aid grant money, as opposed to having to buy books and then, 2 weeks into the course, the instructors are trying to collect additional funds for this type of product. So that's, one thing that I've heard out there speaking to folks, that they're always very pleasantly surprised and happy that we would be able to do that and bundle that in the product. So what is the bottom line on the price? It's very simple. On the EMR and the EMT level, the price is $25, and that is good for 365 days. On the AEMT and the paramedic level, it is $75, and that is also set for 365 days, but we would be able to extend that for paramedic programs that are going to run over a year. And I think Aaron has it up on the screen now, so you can see that these are just the options, excuse me, to buy it straight, without a package. But you can speak to your sales reps and find out, what the cost of a particular bundle for an EMR, an EMT course that you might be interested in, paramedic. In terms of how it will fit with our learning management program, the program will reside within that program, so it's something that your students would have an access to. They would have one JV learning account where they would be able to go in and access their JV test prep or their precept, maybe the interactive, and then if you're using Navigate, you might have tests scheduled in there, quizzes, homework assignments, and it's all in one neat place and, easily accessible for the students so they're not having to remember, all different kinds of passwords. Bill, is there anything that you might want to mention in terms of, how this product would work with our Navigate?
Sure. Yeah, so basically what we've done is, and I don't have anything to show, so I apologize for that, but I'll try to paint the picture for you. What we want to do is we want to make sure that this is as seamless and as easy as possible for both your students as well as your colleagues and yourself. So out of our learning management system that we've branded as Navigate, there's going to be a button that appears for students to actually launch the application out of. Now, before they get there, for students, the access code that they get in order to create their account, we've created, and I'll spare you the details and all the technical mumbo-jumbo, basically we've created a two-way communication between our system and the folks at from our sister company, eValue, showing off PreSEPT, so that when the students redeem the access code, it's going to automatically speak to that system and put them into that database, and then when they go into the course and they're actually associated with your classroom, they'll be recognized when they click on that button and launch the application. Now, as instructors, there's an extra step involved. So for those of you that are familiar with our Navigate system, you know that there's usually we send out instructions on how you can access it as an instructor, and you have a course ID you pass out to your students. One additional step's required, and it's only required at the initial setup, and that's you'll interact with a representative from our sister company, from eValue, and you'll set up a roster with them, and that's what's going to help set up the instructors and some of the supportive folks that aren't students in that system. Once that's done, though, it's as simple as logging into your account. Everybody logs into jblearning.com. Everyone launches the Navigate course from their My Account page, and then the button or the link to actually launch the PreSEPT application is going to reside directly in that course. So aside from some initial setup, it's pretty straightforward. Did I cover that, Patty? I mean, I don't have anything to show, so I just want to make sure
No, I think that covered it. I mean, I think really the main point is that, we've made this pretty seamless, and there's initial setup, and after that, everybody's good to go, and it should be very easy for everyone to utilize.
We've made a lot of strides in that area. Now, for those that might be on the call that have been with us from the days of JV course, going back a few years ago, one of the things that should probably stand out for them is that there is a concerted effort on the part of Jones and Bartlett to really consolidate products into a single portal, if you will, a single launch pad. We really want to move away from the older way we had done things, where you had one link to log into your classroom, another link to log into X course, and still another login for companion resources or companion website resources. And for those folks that are on the call, they're going to notice that that's a profound shift in what we had done previously, and we're really focused on trying to make this as easy and as seamless of an experience for the users, again, students and instructors, by having everything launch out of one single area.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions on the use through Navigate or on any of the pricing? No, guess not. Okay, Larry, then I'll send it back to you, and we'll wrap up.
Well, folks, this is, we appreciate very much having you on the call today. We're still here to go ahead and take some more questions for a couple more minutes. On behalf of Bill, and Patty, and Aaron, myself, Felicia, everybody else from editorial, marketing, sales, and IT, we really want to go ahead and thank you for spending the time with us. We think that we have an opportunity to release an incredible product that will meet many of the demands that we have been hearing from the field. for a product that can go ahead and be seamlessly just integrated right on into our existing Navigate platform, or can be purchased separately should you desire to do that. We also know that not everyone will use all the features that we've provided here, and that's okay as well. You don't have to use everything that we've given you, and we also know that you may need some more assistance. So if you do need some more assistance for this, please reach out to your rep. You can also reach out to us through to other contacts that you've had with IT and such. But we stand ready to go ahead and answer any questions you have, and to allow you to go ahead and play with the product some, and look forward to getting you set on up and to have a trial here with many of your students. So I think that's about it. We stayed exactly on time that we had said for this, and I see some folks saying thanks, and they're checking out right now. So thank you very much for your attention. Are there any other final comments from anyone? Aaron?
No, I think we covered exactly what I wanted to take a look at. So thanks, everybody.
Again,
Thank
folks,
you.
thank you all very much for attending here. You can go ahead and exit off the call then.